Hello, everybody, and welcome to How to Get Hired. This live stream is brought to you by my YouTube channel members, my Patreons, and my super thanks donors. So thank you for the support. This is called, what's this episode called? It's called, it's Reality versus Lies Recruiters Told You. Yes, if you are looking for a job right now, there are several things that I think you probably would like to know. And that is that, first of all, we're at the lowest point in our lives, one of the lowest points in our lives when we're between jobs. And it's usually associated with a lot of low self-esteem and kind of panic and uncertainty about the future and all this kind of stuff. If you are experiencing that right now, you are not alone. That's perfectly normal. And it is, you know, it's an illusion, okay? We feel like that in the moment. But later on, everything works out okay, and we forget that feeling. So that's what's going to happen to you too. But I'm here to help, and this is a live stream, an interactive live stream. So if you have questions about anything to do with the whole process of getting hired, careers, that kind of thing, that's what I'm here for. Anything to do with job interviews, discovering jobs, applying for jobs, dealing with recruiters, that sort of thing. Let me know what your questions are in the chat and I will interact with you. I'll see if I can help you if I can. Yes, so this is called Reality versus the Lies Recruiters Told You. I get a lot of people on this channel that regularly sort of keep me informed of some of the things that have been happening to them in their job search journey. And something that you guys, if you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you guys know I have a bit of a chip on my shoulder for recruiters. I had some bad experiences, like a lot of you guys. I had some bad experiences early in my career, having dealt with recruiters, people that lied to you, people that were rude. You know, they were rude and they disrespected you and they made life hard for you right when you were at your lowest. And then you sort of, in my case, you sort of get a bit older and you learn more about how businesses work and how, you know, HR departments work and how recruiting and selection works. And then you realize how, you know, it's largely a smokescreen and there's a lot of misinformation and there's a lot of sort of underhanded things going on in the way they deal with candidates and the whole job search process in general. And like I always say, I mean, there's a few good recruiters out there, but a lot of them, certainly judging by the way they treat candidates, is they're bad. They're bad. They're not fun to deal with. They don't understand the basics of manners, protocol, this kind of thing. And they take every advantage they can get. And it's a strange situation where some people have been sort of living in the real world their whole lives, right? Others, they've been in school, they've been sort of sheltered from the real world for most of their life. And then when they get into the position where they're having to go out and find a job, you know, they're encountering reality for the first time and they don't know how to deal with it. And it's scary. And you got to learn a whole new set of rules and a whole new set of principles that are governing everything. And it can be quite the, I don't want to use obscene words, but yeah, I can throw you for a loop. Let's put it that way. Quite the experience. And I see a lot of young people struggling with this right now. So, as I say, get in the chat and let me know what you're struggling with, and I will do my best to help you out. I have videos on my channel for how to get a job, and also I have stuff that's kind of loosely tied to it, including my live streams on entrepreneurship, because right in this moment, like I was saying a moment ago, right in this moment when you're confronting the real world, you're having to go and get a job, and nobody really prepared you for how to do this if you're coming out of school. You know, it's something they don't really teach you in school, and they actually actively discourage, you know, but now you're in the real world. And think about it, you know, the process that you're taught, the conventional standard process, is that you look for listings and you apply for a job and you respond with an application. You know, it's almost like a Craigslist kind of thing, right? We look in the classifieds and We see what there is, right? And that's the thing that everybody understands by default, how to get a job. The reality is that there's a hell of a lot more than that. For example, let me illustrate this for everybody. Okay, another kind of thing in life is finding your significant other, right? Boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever. Now, imagine if you did that the way that they do the standard process for hiring, right? Imagine if you put out an application and you got like 800 applicants and you put them all side by side and then did a sort of speed dating kind of approach where you talk to them and you ask some really cliched questions to each one. Would that process yield the best result? The answer is no, it wouldn't. And in fact, as we all know, that's not how this works for most people, right? That's not how you find your significant other, right? Usually it's something that is not as structured as that, shall we say, right? Somebody got right in your face and they were awesome. And then one thing led to another, and you're in, a long-time permanent relationship with, right? That's kind of how jobs work too. I mean, that's the analog of, what I always talk about on this channel, which is networking, which is like reaching out to companies and, talking to people that way. It's not going in through the front door. And I did a short video recently that I wanted to elaborate on, where I was talking about the educational system and basically how it does this. How, in order, I'm not necessarily knocking the educational system, but the problem with it is that it does education in bulk, right? It's not one-on-one education. It never has been. I believe it started, like modern education started in the Middle Ages, as I understand it, like this idea of classes of people with standardized tests, that all started in the Middle Ages. Now it's designed to do batches of people, right? Now, in order for that to work, you've got to make everyone conform. They all have to follow the rules. You can't have them doing anything they want to do. They all have to sort of all do the same thing, and you've got to be able to control it. So, I mean, there's reasons for this. The unfortunate side effect is that if you go through this is how you've been conditioned your whole life. And now you're an adult and you come out of that, you think that's the only way to really operate, right? You don't want to do something unless someone has given you permission to do it first and told you this is what you now have to do, right? So all of a sudden you're confronted with this lack of structure. Nobody's telling you what to do, and you're not looking around and seeing everybody you're with doing the same thing to give you some sort of reassurance that, yes, this is what we have to do, right? And that's kind of like what the experience is being between jobs, right? At least in the beginning when you're young, it's like, what do I do now? And there's no one there to tell you. There's no teacher to tell you this is what you have to do. And you are not out of work with a whole bunch of people at the same time, usually. So you're not working together and seeing what they're doing. You have to figure out what you're going to do. And it can be quite a gear shift for a lot of people. Now, Reagan says, transition programs teach you those skills. Yeah, they do and they don't. I mean, there's some good ones and there's some bad ones. It's not what you know, it's who you know. No, that's incorrect. That's how it appears to people who are at the bottom, who are not in that. Because they think that, it's because I know this person that that's why they gave me, the job. Or they gave me the contract, or they gave me the opportunity, or whatever it is. In most situations, that's not how it works. If you were incompetent or you were useless, they would not give it to you because it's damn important. What usually happens is they give you the chance, right? Like what I was saying earlier, look at the analog of, finding your significant other. If you're older, if you're married, did you marry your spouse because, you knew them? Of course not. You knew them, but they were also awesome in some way. And that's the reason why you married them, right? Presumably, hopefully, right? Unless something weird's going on, that's usually how it goes. Reagan, is it Regan or Reagan? It's unfortunate that you guys can't respond in real time to this, but Listen, it's almost a guarantee that I will mispronounce your name. I apologize. It's not intentional. I'm terrible with names, and I tend to have a habit of doing that. It's a terrible flaw, and especially I've been an executive, and it's been like really, really unbecoming. But anyway, Reagan, that's why we're here. Okay, so if you have specific questions, don't be afraid to ask. That's what I'm here for. And everybody starts out somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Oh, like President Reagan. Okay, no problem. You see, I had an acquaintance for many years called Regan, so that's what's kind of throwing me. And he pronounced it Regan. I've seen it where that name is spelled differently. It's spelled Regan, but he spelled it Reagan and then insisted on being called Regan. So yeah. Anyway, it's a wonderful kaleidoscope of a world, isn't it? Yeah. So listen, don't be afraid to get in the chat and give me some specific questions, and I can help you with some of those. But this is something that, at least for a lot of young people coming out of school that have maybe been a bit sheltered from this stuff, it's like you've never done anything like this. It's quite startling, and it's quite intimidating when you first confront it, but it's actually not that hard. There's just a few very simple principles. And then beyond that, it's about practicing. Like I was saying in a comment to somebody yesterday, it's about practicing on your own terms. You practice some of the skills and techniques, like job interviews. You learn the answers to the questions, and then you practice giving those answers when asked, right? You memorize them, and you do it a few times, so it sort of is more like muscle memory, right? Same idea. Networking and all these other things are exactly the same way. It's what businesses do. If you've had sort of an entrepreneurial type, background or upbringing, maybe your parents had their own business or, whatever, you may have been exposed to some of these ideas. If you want to just find something out, you go and you ask. It sounds so simple when you say it, but there's a lot of people out there that they don't realize that. They don't know what to do. Okay, so we're getting some activity in the chat. This is great. You guys get in the chat. Ask me what's on your mind. That's career, job related, and I'll try to help you out. Okay, so Reagan says, so say if I got a job and I knew someone in your company really well for a while, and I had some background in your job, would you hire me? Well, okay. If I was looking for someone that had your skills, if I had a need, and I was out specifically to hire someone with your skills, and I happen to know you, okay, and I happen to know that maybe you're looking for work, or you're looking for, either you're unemployed, you're between jobs, or you're looking for something else, I would perhaps give you a call and say, I'd like to talk to you. We might have some opportunities here depending on, what your goals are and, what you can offer and what we're looking to do. And, it might be worth getting together and seeing if there's some commonality there. That's what I would do. I wouldn't give you the job because of it automatically, but I would maybe look at you first, right? Certainly before I were to post the job publicly, if I knew you and I knew that you could do the job, right? And I liked you, sure, I would check you out first. Okay. Now the problem with that is that sometimes it's like if in this scenario, this imaginary scenario, if I don't know that you're looking for work, maybe I wouldn't think like, oh, okay, I'm going to call up Reagan and ask him if he might be a contender. If this is something you might want to do. If I just assumed you were happily employed somewhere else, I may not make that connection, right? But if you sort of announce to me or communicate to me in some way, it's like, hey, I'm looking for something, if there's anything that comes up, let me know. Right. And then I had the need for someone. Of course, it's a no brainer. Right. So you see how that works. There's a few things that have to happen first. Right now. And it's not that I would give you the job. It's that I would consider you first before I looked elsewhere. Right. That's the idea. Okay. That's a typical scenario. Okay, David Lamb is here. David Lamb says, in APAC region, And Chinese cultures that are majority owned by the founders, the inept heirs tend to be placed in the C-suite to be supported by professionals. Yeah, but we're talking about family here. That kind of short circuits a lot of things. But even that, if let's say it's the father that owned a business, just hypothetically, and there was a son or something, and the father knew that the son was absolutely incompetent, would they put their business that they had spent their life building up in their hands? Maybe not. That isn't guaranteed. You know? The way it works generally with rich people is that the younger generation, they have to be groomed and learn about the responsibility of having money. Because if you give, a fool and their money are soon parted, if you give a young person just a huge bank account, here's a big fund, and they're idiots and they've never been really trained, and they don't know anything about money, what are they going to do? They're going to go out, they're going to buy a fancy car, they're going to blow all the money, and thus prove their unsuitability to be put in charge of anything, right? So that has to be sort of, it's like baby steps. You have to sort of learn and at the same time demonstrate your responsibility and your maturity over time by being given increasingly larger areas of responsibility to show off your capability. And then hopefully by the end of the game, when the older generation either dies and leaves it or hands it over, passes the torch, you are ready. You are fully trained, both in your skill set and in your mind, your maturity. Right? That's usually the way it goes. I mean, obviously there's exceptions. You can find exceptions to prove anything, any crazy opinion, but I'm saying generally that's how it works. And yes, there are examples of it's not what you know, it's who you know. Yes, there's some glaring examples where people have given their fortunes to their idiot children and had them flush it entirely down the toilet. Yes, you could find those. If that's what you believe and you want to do a confirmation bias thing and you find evidence to support it, yes, you'll be able to find it, right? So yeah, usually in Hollywood, if you want to find examples of stupid people doing stupid things, usually for some reason it's always Hollywood, but I didn't say that. Okay. 20 Legend says, I'm concerned with 5-year mandatory work verification and what the repercussions may be from that if it's discovered that I lied. Well, that's the problem with lying, isn't it? And if they discover you lie, it's usually bad, right? So do I need to say this? The obvious thing to do is to not lie on things that are important, right? I mean, if you're looking for me to give you a way for you to lie and get away with it, I don't think I can do that, nor would I want to. David Lamb, so professionals must provide the necessary skills that the head, if departments don't have the skills, but have the authority? Some companies employ people they trust, even though they don't. I'm sorry, you lost me there, David. Professionals must provide the necessary skills that the head of departments don't have the skills, but does have. I'm sorry, you need to clean up your grammar, and then I can maybe understand what you're saying. Companies don't trust anyone, and nobody trusts anyone that isn't family. Really, it's all. I mean, you can build up trust a little bit by working with somebody with experience. If ever you're wondering why experience is important to recruiters, for example, that's one of the reasons, right? If you have a long working relationship with somebody and it's worked out for many years and, you can have a little bit of trust, but it's still not all based on trust. I mean, you still have contracts with people, and if someone betrays a trust, there are consequences, right? That's it. You lose any goodwill you have with them instantly. You'll never do business with that person ever again, and you'll maybe advertise that fact. You'll evangelize that to your business contacts if it's relevant. There are consequences. So it's the fear of the consequences that can keep people, not burning their bridges. But I wouldn't really call that trust. There's still fear of consequences is not the same thing as trusting somebody, right? Okay, have the necessary skills. So professionals must provide the necessary skills that the head of the department don't have. Sorry, still don't understand. Okay, Change Your Socks by veteran Paul Anderson. That's a title. That's a good title. That shows you got a bit of personality. I am speaking with a recruiter today. I was told... Oh, this jumped on me again. I was told to show my willingness to adopt leadership messaging so they know you aren't a potential troublemaker. What? Is that what they told you? What? First of all, what is leadership messaging? What does that mean? Does that mean like you have to talk a bunch of management jargon? Is that what that means? And you have to do that so they know you aren't a potential troublemaker. See, this is the example of like a complete... with recruiters, in my experience, and what I've heard from a lot of people, like a lot of candidates, the common complaint is that it's not only a lack of trust, it's that they like are actively suspicious of you. It's almost like they think you're like, they just assume you're lying. They assume that everything on your resume is a fabrication. They doubt your credentials. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people echo that. And this kind of, to me, looks like that. Okay, they want to show you're not a troublemaker. Well, the obvious way of doing that would be references. If they can call up a previous boss, maybe not your if you're currently working, maybe not your current boss, but a previous boss, or current coworkers, or something like that, and say like, what's this person like? I mean, that is the whole point of references. Why do they do references? For this very reason, And if the previous employer, previous boss says to them, like, to be honest with you, I had a lot of trouble with this employee. They lied, they falsified records, they said they did a whole bunch of work when they didn't. They made false representations. They violated company rules, and they harassed somebody repeatedly in the workplace. So, yeah, I mean, that's honestly my experiences with them, right? And then the recruiter will say, okay, well, thank you very much. Thank you for your candor. That's very helpful. So, you know what I mean? Like that's usually how they check for these things. So maybe if you can elaborate a little bit, Change Your Socks by veteran Paul Anderson. I can maybe speak to it. Look, there is a standard question that recruiters ask, and they've been asking this for at least 50 years. It's the future question. They say, where do you see yourself in 5 years? That's the cliched sort of format. And what they're looking for is, it's very simplistic. They're trying to see if you actually care about doing this kind of work and working in this place, or you really don't care about this work. You really don't care about working here specifically. You just want money. You don't care what you do. You know what I mean? Like that's what they're probing for. So, it's very childish, but they ask this question because some people will fall right into this very simplistic thing. And they'll say, where do you expect to be? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And they'll say, oh, well, like this is a job for, I don't know, being a software developer. And the recruiter will ask the candidate this question, and the candidate will say, where do I see myself in 5 years? I see myself retired to the Bahamas doing parasailing because, since childhood, I've had a passion for parasailing, and I've been doing it professionally for 15 years, and that's what I really enjoy. So that's what I see myself doing. Once I made, enough money, I'm going to retire there, right? And the recruiter says, well, thank you very much. I now know that you don't care about this job. You wish you were parasailing. That's your passion, not this. You don't care about this. This is just a necessary evil for you to go and do something else, right? So if I hire you, you're not going to really be committed to this type of work. You're not passionate about it. You're not going to stay here, right? Now, I know it seems dumb, okay? If it's like a low-level, entry-level job that's not very glamorous, yeah, Who's going to be passionate about that? But what they want to hear is that you don't want to be doing something else. You want to be like, if you said, for example, I want to work with nice people that I really enjoy, being part of a group that, I feel where I belong there and I feel like I'm doing something important, that's what I want to do, and I'm looking for that, and now I'm coming here and because, I like this kind of work and I'm hoping that, in the past, this kind of work has been really fun for me. I'm hoping that that'll continue. Something like that. If you said that, they'd be like, okay, right. You pass. You understand? Okay. Now, if the company is looking to promote the candidate into a leadership position, their term, not mine, within 2 years or something, they might say like, do you have any passion about being a leader? Like, what was the question? Are you willing to adopt leadership messaging? I mean, do you talk like a leader? Whatever that means. Do you want to be a leader? If so, then that speaks very highly because whoever we hire, we're expecting that within 2 years, the current boss will be retired and maybe this candidate will move into that position, right? So it's good that you have leadership skills and you're passionate about leading people or something like that. Maybe that's why they're asking it. I'm not sure. Okay. Oh, that's very high praise. I can't pronounce your name. It's like a symbol. It's like the artist formerly known as Prince, but now they're known as like that. You can't pronounce the symbol. So, thank you. Change Your Socks says it's a program manager job at T-Mobile. Okay, so they don't know what they're talking about then. That's what that says to me. I don't know much about T-Mobile. All I know is that in where I am in Canada, the cell phone providers is like, absolute entry-level job working for some of those cell phone companies, like the telecommunications companies, either in customer service or sales. And I'm not putting it down, but I'm just saying like there's a lot of people there that don't really know what they're doing. So I'm sure they're throwing a bunch of words around. It just comes out as word salad because I don't know what leadership messaging is. I mean, in this context, like just getting a job at T-Mobile, I don't know what that would mean. What I think they're trying to probe for is, can you express yourself professionally? In a workplace situation, in a professional situation, are you using the right language? Are you saying only appropriate things? That's maybe what they're probing for there. And you're going to demonstrate that by how you conduct yourself in the interview. Okay. So if you use a lot of slang and you drop a couple of F-bombs, that might not be the way to convince them of that. Maybe that's what they're trying to probe for. So you answer in a very professional way. You start by dressing professionally for the interview and then acting professionally, saying please and thank you, all the manners, all that kind of stuff. And then, as much as possible, use the right word to describe the right thing in a business context. Just do your best with that stuff and always seem like you are passionate about it, dare I say. Like, I know it's hard to get passionate maybe for like a job at T-Mobile, but you're into it. You're not there and you're just kind of like, oh, whatever, here I am. Yeah, what do you want? What questions you got for me? Just have a good attitude about it. That's all I can say from what I understand here. This keeps jumping on me here. Okay, Huda is here, says, hello, sir. I don't know how I can talk the boss into accepting me again. I worked at his school last year, and I consider myself as a talented teacher, but they can't see that. Okay, listen, Huda, there's a couple of things here. There's a couple of things that you can do, and I will get into those, but at the end of the day, you need to accept the fact that people are different from each other, and people have different values. And what I mean by that is that you could do something awesome, something genuinely awesome, but they don't see that as being awesome because they have their own values. They think certain things are good, certain things are bad. A teacher should do this. A teacher should not do this. Is there right and wrong? No, it's just their opinion, their version of what a teacher should be, right? Now, I've been kind of a teacher. I've gone back to university. I've taught classes in university about business and HR. I liked being in front of a crowd of people and talking. It's like being on stage. I kind of enjoy that a little bit, but I didn't like the administrative process. I found it very stifling and very silly. Like academia. I'm just not built for academia. I'm from the private sector. So I found a lot of how they thought and what they did. They're just stupid. I was also blown away by all the people that are in charge of academia, like, these programs. They're terrible at teaching people. They're terrible at public speaking, and they're not likable. And I remember thinking, like, why would you go into this profession if you're not good with people, you're not good at talking to a room full of people, and you're not very approachable and personable? Why would you do this? That was what formed in my mind. No offense. I mean, there's some good ones, but a lot of them are like that. It's like, what are you doing here? And then they told me, oh, you need to do this and not that. And it's like, okay. Okay. I mean, it's kind of hard for me to accept that you know better than me, but whatever. So you're going to find this in any walk of life. You go to one job interview, you answer the questions the way you answer them. They think you're awesome and they hire you. You go to another job interview a couple of years later, you give the same answers to the same questions. They think you're a non-starter. They're like, nope, we're not hiring that person. You go to another job interview, they think, yeah, you're okay. And then you go to another job interview, they think, oh, you're the best candidate we've ever had. And they hire you. Like, you're not changing. It's them. Right? So it may not be possible to convince this person that you're awesome because they just have a different definition of awesome than you, right? Theirs could be out to lunch. Okay? So you need to understand that's the reality behind everything here. So if it doesn't work out, don't beat yourself up about it. It's not you, okay? Necessarily. Now, assuming that you can salvage the situation and it was just maybe a misunderstanding, they got a bad impression of you, okay? There's a couple of things you can do, okay? Number one is maybe they don't like some of your traits or your opinions or your techniques. Maybe you can get around that by showing them the results, okay? So if you've gotten good results by employing a technique they don't like in class or something, you could show them the results. You could say, like, I know, my technique is a little bit, a bit divisive. Some people don't agree that that's the way to do it, but I disagree. I've had some good results. Here's the results. As you can see, 90% of all the students in my class gave me glowing reviews and their grades improved by this much. And, whatever the results are that you could show, you could try that approach. Okay. Another thing you can do is you can impress them or this person by the way you deal with them. Okay. How you communicate with them. So you're very polite, you're very eloquent, you're very, you follow protocol. So you can learn those kind of skills, like how to talk to somebody and have them like you, how to be likable, all that kind of stuff. So if it's possible to salvage the situation, you could try at least those two approaches. And if it doesn't work, just remember, sometimes it just doesn't work and it's okay. It's unfortunate, but it's not you. And you're going to be encountering this. Everyone encounters this all the time in the world, right? So just know that, okay? And then do the best you can. Hopefully that was somewhat helpful. Pearl says, hello, Bill. How does one answer this question? What is it about this company that you find attractive? Okay, now this is where having done 2 minutes of preparation helps, okay? In a perfect world, what you would have done is before you go to the job interview, you get on the internet for 2 minutes, you look up the company, okay? So you first know a couple of things about it, right? Then if you want to really excel, okay? And I'm saying you can add another minute onto your time spent researching and quickly look up, the competitors, if you can find that. So if they're in this industry and they sell this product, they're in the farming industry in your region. Let's say you're in Mexico, northern Mexico. They're in the farming industry and they sell farming equipment like, I don't know, combine harvesters and silos and stuff, right? You do you quickly do a search and say, suppliers of farming equipment in Mexico or something like this. And then, maybe a couple of companies will come up. You go to the other ones and you look at what they're doing. And then you look at what this company's doing. And you say, I like your company because unlike your competitors, you sell only combine harvesters. You don't dilute your attention between all these different types of products. You focus on this. And what that tells me is that you're doing a good job in this area because your competitors are doing all kinds of other things, but you're still giving them a good run for their money just by focusing on combine harvesters. So you must really know what you're doing when it comes to this. And that's why I like your company. And that's why I'm interested to work here. I don't know. I'm just making this up. But it starts with knowing something about them. That's the first step. How can you say what you like about them if you don't know anything about them? So, if you haven't done any of that, just go to the job interview and say why do you want to work here? And you say, well, you guys were very polite when you invited me in and, you showed me to the waiting room before the interview and you asked me if I wanted some refreshment or, asked me, let me put my coat down. That's nice. A lot of places don't do that, but you guys did that. That tells me that you guys care about people and you have some really solid values here and you respect employees. That's the kind of company I'm interested in working for. Something like that. As a last resort and you don't know anything about the company, you could maybe say something like that. Reagan, if I, the employee, feel after 2 years the management goes sour, would it be appropriate to resign if you feel you're not a good match for the job? You can do anything you want. Of course it's appropriate. Yeah. I mean, first of all, if you've been in a job for 2 years that you don't feel you're right for, something's wrong, man. You might want to have realized that a little bit sooner and done something about it sooner. But I don't understand what you're saying because you're finding fault with the management. You're saying the management went sour. And then you're saying you're not a good fit for the job. So where's the problem? Is it them? Is it you? Is it both of you? Right? Why would you resign? If they've all of a sudden become jerks or something, is it appropriate to resign? That's up to you. It certainly is appropriate if that's the path you want to take. There's nothing wrong with it. Sometimes you go to a place, it's just toxic. It's populated by idiots. They're hostile, they're unfriendly, they're unwelcoming, they disrespect you. It's a toxic work environment. You might develop mental health issues being there. It's stressful, right? The work is completely unfulfilling. You know what I mean? Is it appropriate to resign? Of course it is. Now if it might be preferable for you to have done some pre-planning here and maybe start looking for a new position somewhere else before you resign. There's a few kind of caveats there, things you would want to do just to do this in a smart way. But you're not a bad person for sort of tendering your resignation. Sometimes like I kind of just said in another context, sometimes it just doesn't work out. People just don't click. There's a lot of different personality types. There's a lot of different backgrounds. There's a lot of different crazy opinions that people have. And sometimes it just doesn't click if you got to work with them and be around them all day long. So it's no fault of yours. And it's not even sometimes their fault. It's just that you guys don't really work together. You're incompatible, and that's okay. The first step is to realize this and admit it. And the second thing is just to, okay, what are we going to do about it? And sometimes the answer is to just leave. That's kind of the last resort, but that is something within the realm of possibility. Andrew says, I'm looking for a job. Haven't even written my CV yet, and I recently graduated. Any tips? Okay. Well, write your resume, your CV, your resume. In North America, generally, my lingo that I'm using, because I'm in North America, I'm in Canada. CV is an academic resume. If you're in academia, you list all your published papers and books and things. resume is the document if you're, listing work experience, if you're not in academia, right? But yeah, write your resume. I mean, it's not that hard to do. I've done this kind of thing before. Here, let's do this. So, I mean, you could do it with Google, but you know what? I'm going to go to Bing. I've done this before. Now, don't laugh, because in my opinion, Bing has like a superior, at least at the moment, superior image searching capability than Google, simply because when you click on the image, it goes directly to the image and it's big. Okay. So you can do stuff like this, right? So it just goes right to it. Now, I went to Bing and I typed in resume examples, and then I'm just sort of using the arrow keys to like scroll through these. So, I mean, these should give you ideas about the format, the types of things that are going to be on there. Okay. Just write the major stuff. Okay. And then what you would do then is, unfortunately, and people hate hearing this, but it's true. What really works and makes it like actually yield good results is you should tailor your resume a little bit to each job you apply for, because the odds of a cookie cutter resume fitting what they're exactly what they're looking for is pretty remote. And what I mean by that is that you would even use the same words that they use to describe something. Okay? So for example, let's say you're in the construction business, you're a contractor, you did drywall or something. You may say, I was a drywaller for 10 years, and they say, well, that doesn't qualify. We're looking for someone who's a contractor. It's like, well, what? I mean, yes, I'm a contractor, but no, you said you were a drywaller. It's like, well, they're the same thing, but the computer applicant tracking software doesn't know that, right? Nor does the idiot recruiter who doesn't know anything about construction, but they're recruiting for a construction vacancy. They don't know that either, right? So you got to use the same words that they're using. So in the job posting, if they called it a contractor, you have to use the word contractor, or they assume you're not a match and you don't have the qualifications. It's stupid. But that's why I say you have to tailor, you have to customize your resume a little bit for every job that you apply for, if you want it to have a good chance of being selected. Okay, so that's how I would get started. Okay. And then, check out my YouTube channel, all these videos on how to do interviews. Check out other people's channels on, how to do interviews. Just get your information from a variety of sources, right? Like, I talk more about interviews from like a higher level perspective. I know other people do interviews from like, sort of, entry level job, like, memorize this answer that's like a whole paragraph. They do that approach. Like, if that's more what you're looking for, there's stuff out there that'll give you that. There's even articles. You don't have to watch videos. There's articles and things on the internet that will help you. So, just get your information from a variety of sources and then start doing stuff. Start before you're ready. Just start firing stuff out, and you will upgrade your resume and all your assets, basically, as you go, like your cover letters, your resumes, and I don't know if you have business cards or like your LinkedIn profile, whatever you got, you'll be improving them as you go. Okay. Wow. I'm quite far back here. Let's see here. Change Your Socks says, awesome. Basically, they want to make sure I can be culturally fit. What? They got very political after the Sprint merger. Okay. Yeah, they keep allowing those telecommunication companies to merge. It's like, I think they're big enough. They always use, this is like I've studied this stuff in school, and this was kind of my area, but it's like, you guys are big enough. They keep using the excuse that, we need to be competitive. It's like, nope, no, you don't. You want to be too big to fail. That's what you're going for. Anyway. Okay, they will have me manage a lot of contracts. It's a company that largely organizes contractors to implement system as a service, etc. Okay. Well, good. That's sounds like it's beyond the entry level, so that's really good. How do you say this? Balsamic vinegar says, completed my Google Data Analytics certificate today. Need to continue building my portfolio. Okay. I don't know what the Google Data Analytics certificate is, but that's good. Alan Jacob. I was going to say Jacob Allen. Alan Jacob says, hello, Bill. The company is lowballing me. Yeah, they will do that. Most companies will. I requested for a change in designation. Letting go this opportunity is out of the table for me. What? How do I go about already gonna list what I bring along? I don't fully understand that. They're lowballing you. I requested a change in designation. Does that mean like job title or responsibilities? I don't know what the situation is exactly. You got to give me a better understanding of the situation. I'm having problems understanding. I did, for what it's worth, I did a video. It's like an hour long on salary negotiation. I mean, if you could check that out, just go to the company's expert and then do a search for salary negotiation, where I go into all that kind of stuff and how it all works and what are all the concepts. So that might be useful, maybe, hopefully. Pearl says, hello, Bill. How does one answer this question? Which area of professional competence do you see yourself developing over the next few years? Okay, this is a poorly veiled version of asking, what's your weakness, right? This is, what is your weakness? This is just the same question asked with different words, right? So I've done a video on how to answer that question. That's the number one trick question that they will ask. And I could just say, just go watch that video. But the short version here is that first of all, the whole point of job interviews is the recruiter is going to look beyond your resume. One of the things they're going to do, apart from finding out who, they want to meet you to see what you're like as a person. Okay. So that's like the main purpose of a job interview. But almost equally as important is they want to get the dirt on you. They want to try and trip you up because they're not stupid. They know that people exaggerate and people give like a sort of rosy picture of who they are. And, they memorize canned answers. They're trying to look beyond that. Right. So they're basically wanting to find out what your flaws are, what your weaknesses are. Okay. And so they think they're clever by asking questions like this. So the official story is if you ask a recruiter this question, okay, like they're your adversary, but if you ask them what you should do, it's going to be completely self-serving. And what they say is, well, if you have weaknesses, you should just admit what they are, be completely honest, don't hold anything back, and then say how you're working on them, right? That's officially what they say to do. In something like 90% of cases, that's complete BS, because what they end up doing is, your reward for being honest and saying, well, I've never supervised anyone before, and so I feel very intimidated with any role where they ask me to supervise someone because I don't know how to do it. And if someone is not following the rules or they're not performing very well, I get very intimidated, like telling them, that they need to do better or they need to work harder, or trying to correct it. I find that very unpleasant, very intimidating. I find it very stressful. I don't like it. I shy away from any kind of supervisor type role. So if this job is going to require me to do that, it might be a problem. Okay, so maybe that's the truth. And then you say this to them. 90% of the time, what they'll do is they'll say, okay, well, thank you very much for your honesty, for being so, for your candor and being so candid with me, and your reward for that is now they're going to eliminate you. They're going to say, nope, this candidate, they have issues with supervising anyone. They're intimidated by any kind of management of people role. So sorry, we're going to go with somebody else. Right? Okay, so that's what's going on here. So the question is, how do you get around this question? How do you answer it, give them a satisfactory answer, but you avoid them eliminating you based on the weakness that you gave, right? And like I've done a couple of videos on this. I'm sure I explain it much better in those videos, but the way you do it in a nutshell is you can't like not give a weakness. You can't say I've got a strength and it's a weakness. Like I care too much, or I try too hard, or I work too hard, or work too much. You can't say that stuff. They don't consider that an answer. They consider that like a hostile answer. You're not answering the question. So you got to give them something. So what you do is you give them an understandable side effect of doing something good. Okay? So for example, like the standard cookie cutter thing was, I do really high quality work, right? Because I make sure that everything I do is triple checked and all this. So I pride myself on my high quality results. The problem is that it takes me a little longer to do it than maybe other people. I'm a little bit slow, right? I go slower, but I get better results, right? So it's a trade-off, right? And you could say the opposite. You could say like, I do really fast work, which is great. I mean, people praise the fact that, they give me something to do. It's done quickly. I don't stall. Sometimes I make a couple of mistakes because I do it so fast, but in a fast-paced environment, that's bound to happen, right? So you're giving them something bad, but it's a side effect of doing something awesome, right? Now, the icing on the cake is then if you say how you fix it. So you could say, look, I do really high quality work, but sometimes it takes a little bit extra time to do, and sometimes in the past that, that's annoyed a couple of my superiors. But, I get around that by doing this. I go and I talk to them first. I say, I'm going to have it ready for you at this time. Is that okay? And 95% of the time they say, sure. So it's always on time, right? Something like that. I'm just making up these examples off the top of my head, so I'm sure they're not great, but with a bit of thought, you can come up with something for you that's honest, that's in this format that makes perfect sense. And, they can't poke holes in it. They could say, oh, well, that's understandable because you do this. And there's no way of getting around that I know of. So, you know what I mean? You gave them a weakness, but you didn't give them a reason to eliminate you and say you're a bad employee because of X. So like that's how you get around this. But it requires like a lot of standard job interview questions. It requires a little bit of preparation. You got to figure out what's the right answer for you. Like this is the format, but precisely what you say is going to vary from person to person. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Balsamic vinegar says, my career coach said it's like that. I shouldn't take rejection personally. Yeah, of course not. Like, I mean, it's easier said than done. It's hard not to take rejection personally. Everybody does it. And someone says, when you're like at your lowest point and you're at the most unsure of yourself, and then somebody that's like up on high says to you, no, I'm sorry, you don't make the cut. It's hard to not take that personally. It stings. It sends people into a spiral of depression. But the reality is that that's someone's opinion. And the reality is that, like I said, one person will think you're awesome. Another person will think you're terrible. You haven't changed. It's that you've just dealt with different people. And those people have different ways of looking at things, different values. They prize different things and they trivialize different things, So that's just how it goes. And anyone who's done sales, you recognize what's going on here. This is the sales process. You're selling yourself. For people that have never done sales, this is a new experience for you. You talk to 100 people. Like if you're going door to door, would you like to buy my brushes or my vacuum cleaner or, whatever people do door to door, out of 100 people, 80 of the 100 will like slam the door in your face. They'll say like, nope, like who the hell are you to talk to me about vacuum cleaners? Do you have any idea who I am? Like this kind of thing. And then they slam the door in your face. but 20 people will buy it, right? So what you've just discovered is if you want 20 sales, talk to 100 people. There you go, just like that. You want 20 sales? Bam, there you go. Yeah, you got to deal with a few doors slammed in your face, but you know what? That's fine, because at the end of the day, you've made 20 sales, right? You're making money. You're profitable, right? So if you want a job, it's the same kind of process. You have to endure X many no's because, and that's fine because you know that you're going to get the yeses, right? It's just statistical probability, right? Now, what makes this more nerve-wracking for people is that you haven't been through it a bunch of times, so you don't know those percentages, you don't know the ratios, right? But you can figure it out. If you apply for X many jobs, you get X many interviews, which leads to X many offers, right? So that's what's going on here. It's the sales funnel, the marketing funnel, whatever you want to call it. You guys know what that is? I know some people don't know what that is. I will take like 15 seconds to show you. Here. Okay, let's look at images. You might have seen this before. I mean, this is not like unusual. Here's my favorite little picture here. It's this, right? You go to this many people, hey, I'm here, I'm applying, or I'm looking, I can help you, right? Some people call you back, others bring you in for an interview, others give you an offer, and then of those, some hire you, right? So you got to go to a lot of people here. And I mean, the problem is it's a quality approach, right? You got to go to a lot of people and you got to do the best job you can, right? You got to have both. If you don't have both, the thing doesn't work. But this is the process, right? So you're going to get a lot of no's, but that's just part of the process, okay? And at the end of the day, you'll find someone that says, you know what? I pick you. Out of all the people I've talked to, I pick you, right? I could have hired any one of these bozos, but I picked you because I think you're the best, right? You will get that. Okay, this thing jumped on me again. Where did I leave off? Okay, Jacob Tremblay. Hello, Bob. Okay, that's a promising start. I hope everything is going well with you. I had a second interview with the company, and it was a Zoom interview. I had high hope because one of the interviewers was the CEO's son. Oh, that could go both ways. You could have the CEO's idiot son could be in there. That has been known. In fact, I would, if I was going in completely blind, that's kind of what I would assume. The odds are slightly higher that that's the case because doors have been opened for them to a degree because they're the CEO's son. So I'm assuming they didn't get there entirely from merit. So, but that doesn't matter. If they pick you, they pick you. Let's see here. Okay, I thought the interview was great. They said it would take 2 weeks. I've waited for 2 weeks and made a call to the company. I didn't hear from them, and I left a message. Still did hear from them, and I got a little frustrated. Like, I mean, you didn't hear from them? I had to accept the fact that the company has moved on. Just need some advice when being ghosted like that. Okay, first of all, yes, that's called being ghosted. Unfortunately, that is now the standard. This is why one of the beefs I have with recruiters, it's unprofessional. It's rude and unprofessional, not just in a business context, but just in a manners context. You're basically lying to people. And the problem is a lot of the people that you're dealing with, they don't know that like things like, when they say, I'll get back to you, that really means I'll never get back to you, right? Like if you're dealing with industry professionals, we all know this little code. Like, okay, that's one thing. But you're dealing with younger people that they don't understand that. So they actually expect you to get back to them, right? And you're lying through your teeth right to their face. It's extremely unprofessional, okay? Now, Jacob, listen, okay? You're going to encounter this a lot, okay? Everyone does. This is how recruiters today operate. Because when you are contacting like 100 people a day, okay, or more, right? If you had to get back to each of those people individually with like an email or something like that, like let alone customizing the email to them, the argument is that it would be prohibitively labor intensive. It would be prohibitively time consuming. So what they do is they save their time and they just don't get back to you. And the unwritten protocol is that if we contact you, that means it's going somewhere. And if you don't hear from us in a while, chances are it's a no. Okay. So just bake that into your mind. Okay. If you don't hear back from people, unfortunately, that usually means that it's a no. Okay. Now there's good news here. Okay. Listen, the way you do this process, the way you get the best results, and the way that you maintain your sanity and your mental health during this process is never look back. Like never wait by the phone waiting for it to ring, right? You know, you went for an interview. You did your best. Great. Now, if they call you back, awesome. If they make you an offer, great. If they want to talk to you again, perfect. You'll go and do that, right? But in the meantime, forget about them and start pursuing other opportunities. Apply for many other jobs, okay? Do other activities that will, you know, get you a job or have money coming in, right? Keep doing stuff. Keep moving forward. Never look back. Never stop and stress out about, you know, they didn't get back to me about this. It's like, look, they'll get back to you if something comes of it, right? Now, every once in a while, you might get like a really amazing job opportunity. You know, it's like your dream job. You're really, really hoping that one works out, okay? Now, for those, maybe you could follow up maybe once, right? You just leave a voicemail or whatever. You call them on the phone, say like, hey, you know, it's me. I had applied for this position. You guys had brought me in for an interview. I was just following up to see if there was any news or any movement on that position. You know, and if it's a message, thank you, goodbye. If you're talking to the person, they'll say whatever, you know, but anything other than like, oh yes, we're going to bring you in and we want to bring you in. How is next Tuesday for you? You know, anything other than that, it's a no. Okay. And that's fine. Just keep moving on. Something will come up. And the sooner you get to the new opportunities, the sooner something will come up. Okay. That's how this works. But yeah, ghosting is unprofessional and it's rude and it really pisses me off. I mean, it's just not a professional way to act. It's you're really creating a lot of negative goodwill, you know, by doing. A lot of recruiters, they don't realize this. They're pissing everybody off. And if you are in like a smaller city or something, you know, in that industry, in a smaller city like I'm Winnipeg, Canada. It's not even 1 million people. It's like, you know, 700, 800,000 something. It's like, it isn't that big. So if you're in like one industry in a smaller city, for example, or in a region, there isn't an infinite number of people in the talent pool there, right? So if you're annoying everybody systematically every time you contact a candidate or every time you deal with them, that's going to come back at you, you know, sooner than you think. I don't think a lot of recruiters realize this, you know. Okay, where did I leave off? Now it won't scroll. I can't scroll this back up again. I hope this is where I left off because I can't scroll back up. Alan Jacob says, got my final round next week. We both are convinced that we want to take this ahead. No other candidates came through reference. Okay. Yeah, it sucks that I can't go up. Sorry, Alan, if there was like a story on top of that, before that. It sounds like you got that through networking and they checked you out first and it worked out. Jacob says, looking forward to move to another state and trying to find a job before moving. Traveling to go to interviews and still getting rejected. I'm still going on strong and keeping the faith. Yeah, look, this is a very painful process. You really do pay your dues doing this process. But just recognize it for what it is. This is what the sales process is like. It's entirely based on statistics. Like I was saying earlier, you knock on 100 doors, 20 of them will buy, or whatever percentage. It's same like doing informational interviews or stuff like that. Like I've talked about on this channel, you contact 100 executives, 8 will give you an interview, something like that. But that's 8 interviews with executives in your industry, in your location, that could be hiring someone like you. And if you can impress them, it opens a lot of doors for you, So it's like, okay, it sucks that, the other 92 didn't respond, but, or maybe like 90 didn't respond and 2 gave you nasty notes like, who the hell are you to try and talk to me kind of note. But, you got 8 people that said, yeah, sure, let's talk. And, if you impressed like 3 of them, you might have like opportunities of 3 companies just like that. So it's worth it. I built a consulting business doing precisely that. Alan Jacob already watched the hour. Oh, okay. Wow. That's dedication. Already watched the hour-long video. That was very helpful. Thanks. They seem convinced I'm a good fit, but they generally don't pay well. How do I bring them up to my expectation? Listen. Okay. You already saw that video. So the only other thing I'll say is that it may not be possible, right? They have their range, and maybe just the upper end of their range is the upper end of their range, and it's the upper limit, and you just can't get them to go above that. Depending on what you want to do, okay, a path forward may be that you take the job, get your foot in the door, and then once you're on the inside, push for raises or promotions or whatever you're going for once you're on the inside, okay? Like, unless you have any other amazing options lined up right now, any alternatives, and you're in the final stages of negotiating an employment contract with this company, it might be worth taking this company just to see, Now, look, if the whole worst case scenario, if it all goes south, they hire you, but it doesn't work out, you don't like the money, and you're not willing to put up with that job for that low amount of money, you can just cancel the whole thing. Thank you, but no thank you. You don't put it on your resume. You don't use them as a reference. It never happened. Okay. So, you risk your time being wasted, but not much else, right? So that might be the way forward. Okay. If you absolutely can't push them, and you don't want to apply too much pressure for fear of them saying, okay, forget the whole thing. Like, you obviously want too much money than what we can pay. Okay. So that's up to you to decide. If it's a really good job, if you would really like working there, it's a great environment, good work. It's useful for your career. Maybe there's some opportunities to get for networking or for, letters of recommendation or, and again, something useful. Like, you might want to just take it, even though the money's not really great. Take it and then try and push for more money. Or you continue your job search while you're employed with these people. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, that's always the option, right? You push as hard as you can, but you don't want to give them an ultimatum and have them reject you if it's something you actually want to do. Okay, so I can't answer that. Only you can decide what's right for you, but that may be a possibility. It continues. I am already planning to give them the list of unique value I bring along. Please help me negotiate on the salary. Thank you, Bill. Well, listen, if you saw the video, you hopefully know what I would say for how to negotiate. You basically, you give them stuff. You give them stuff, right? If you want them to give you something, you got to give them a bunch of things. So an employment contract between the employment contract and like the sort of company rules, right? This is like their conditions. You have to show up to work on time. These are the hours. These are the rules. You have to pay for parking, or whatever, right? This is how vacation works. This is how much vacation you get. You can't take your vacation until the more senior employees have taken theirs, and they get first dibs on when they take vacation. All that stuff that may be part and parcel of this. Okay. You can say, okay, look, this is the first time I've had to deal with this kind of vacation arrangement. That seems really restrictive. I've never worked in this kind of environment where people have had that demand. But you know what? For you guys, like, this is a good job. I'll let you have that. But this number, you got to change. You got to scratch that number out. You got to write in this number. And if you can do that, we got a deal. Right? And you just keep doing that, right? Okay. Or maybe they can't budge on the money, but you could say, okay, well, look, instead of 2 weeks vacation, give me 3 weeks vacation and we got a deal. Something like that. Like maybe there's something else that you could negotiate with, something else that you could get or you could give them. You got to look at the whole thing, right? The management lingo, the management jargon as the deal is a system, right? That's how they look at these things. The entire deal is a system. There's many variables here, right? Or there's like the way overtime works or something, like whatever. Like you can try and negotiate on like many different variables here. Pearl, hello, Bill. Please, how does one research the interviewer before the interview, since one does know who will be interviewing someone? Get on LinkedIn. If you're not on LinkedIn, get on LinkedIn. Now, not absolutely everybody is on LinkedIn, but most people are, like most professionals are, certainly in North America, and I believe in Europe too. So depending where you are in the world, I mean, that's the most basic way of doing it. Now, you can also, depending on who it is, there's a chance they might be mentioned in the company website. Like if you're talking to like some divisional manager or something, they may be mentioned in the company website. So you could look at that too. But LinkedIn is like by far the better thing. So if you know the person's name, get on LinkedIn, do a people search for their name. And if you know what company they're at, you should be able to find them pretty easy. And then like you may have to jump through some hoops on LinkedIn. Like, I don't know if I need to get into the details. Bottom line is that like, if you have a big network, this shouldn't be a problem. If you don't really have a big network, you gotta, you're connected to like 3 people or something. The way LinkedIn works is that, it will not show you people in search results unless they're like a 3rd degree connection or less. But you can get around that by doing the paid version, and you can get around doing the paid version by doing the free trial of the paid version. That's how it always used to work. They'd offer you like a free month of the paid version. So just say, yes, I'll do the free month, and then cancel before the month is over, and then they don't charge you any money, but you still get that search feature and you can look people up. So, okay. So anyway, just bottom line, get on LinkedIn and look them up that way. And that basically shows you what amounts to their resume, like what their background is, where they've worked, what their jobs have been, right? What their education has been. Now that can be very useful. It helps to know if you're talking to someone who's an accountant or an HR person or like a technical manager, right? That's very important. You're going to want to tailor your answers a little bit, depending on who the person is. So yeah. So that hopefully that makes sense. Hey, I recognize this name, Classic Italian Culture. That makes me want to try and imitate a really bad Italian accent, but I know I shouldn't do that. Have the final interview in a week with the country chief accountant, the country chief accountant, and 2 team leaders. Any suggestions? I'm panicking. First of all, don't panic, Classic Italian Culture. You're going to be fine. Okay, you're going to do just fine. What can help is doing the mock interview thing. Grab, whatever useless family member you find around or friend that has nothing better to do, and get them to do some pretend job interviews with you, some mock interviews. Say, look, you be the interviewer, pretend to be the job interviewer. Here's a list of questions. You ask me the questions, I'm going to answer. Okay. And this is going to be practice for me. Right. Or you could, if they're exceptionally smart, you could say, like, you go onto the internet, go to Google or something, you pick some job interview questions and ask me them like this is a real job interview. And we're going to see if I can answer them. Okay. And you like, let me tell you, you do that, like, I don't know, 20 times. You could do that in a day if you really wanted to, but you do that 20 times, you're going to feel so much more prepared. so much more comfortable with the whole thing. You're going to feel so much more confident in yourself. Okay, so don't worry about it. Now, getting to your question here. So you have an interview with an accountant and 2 team leaders. Now, okay, look, team leaders is like a bullshit kind of title. Like what exactly are these people? Obviously, they're supervisors of a team, but like, what are they? Are they technical people? Are they salespeople? Are they marketing people? Like what are we talking? Because that is that can be important, right? Now, if you're talking to an accountant, usually accountants are very down to business type people. They're very precise. They don't like a lot of fluff and deflection. They want solid answers to things. Okay. Their flaw, in my experience, is that they have no imagination. They're very boring. They don't have a lot of personality. They don't have a lot of character. Okay. So good and bad. Like, this is obviously a stereotype, but this is like, I mean, in my experience, it's the stereotype has been upheld with accountants. I've worked with a lot of accountants, and they're kind of like that. And they can be really ball-busting type people in job interviews because they just want to get to the point. They want to like cut right through the BS. And what's the answer? You know, that's the type of people they are. Okay. So don't give them a lot of runaround. Just give them a straight answer, you know, and then you can maybe embellish, you know, and give some detail, right? If you're dealing with an accountant. That's how accountants generally are. And I think that I'm assuming that they will appreciate someone who is also like that, because that's how they are. Okay. This is just my opinion based on my experiences. It could be true for you or it could be not. I don't know. But that's what I would do. Going in blind, knowing only this, that's the kind of approach I would take. Okay. Like, you know how some recruiters like to ask you these like horribly vague, abstract questions, you know, things that kind of annoy me, like things like, you know, so what does success look like to you? You know? And like, I get annoyed with those questions. Accountants get annoyed with those questions. They don't want answers like that. Well, I'm just looking, you know, for a place that will nurture my, you know, sense of self and my sense of belonging. And, you know, it's like, you know, like they're like going, no. You know, right? You know, it's like, let's cut the crap. You know, let's get down to what is your answer? Oh, I'm going bug-eyed trying to see where I am in this feed here. Anyway, sorry if that's kind of a rambling answer, but that's kind of what I have there. Classic. Eric Golden says, love your show. Thank you. Okay, this has stopped moving. So what does that mean? I mean, I see there's this feed that's on the screen. And I see a person in there that I don't see in my feed. Wool 2K? So obviously, oh, and there's other stuff in there too, like, hi, I'm a mechanical engineer. I haven't covered that. So I don't know what's going on. This feed has just stopped on me. So I apologize. I seem to be experiencing some technical difficulties. Oh, here we go. I did that. Now it scrolls. Oh, okay. Now we're back. Okay. Oh, and I see I got an extra 2 screens of stuff. So let's see here. Excuse me. Excuse me while I die. Wolf2K says, hello, I recently graduated from computer science with already 2 years of work experience in the field. 1 year, 4 months as junior at the first company, 8 months as middle for the second company. I'm going to do this Wolf2K all in one shot here. And good, 4 out of 5 self-review knowledge of the technologies I've learned since those technologies never gave me problems. I've watched all of your hiring videos and other videos and aced many first interviews, made the perfect CV, okay, introduced me, blah, 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 blah. Given the wide and right side, this is a long story. And I was praised by many recruiters, but they still haven't invited me sometimes to the technical interview, and they sometimes never invite me to the first. Sorry for the long text. No problem. I guess some text didn't go through since it won't show up on the video feed. Sorry again. No problem. No problem. Yeah. Just making sure at least is showing up on the video feed. Okay, now where's your question? Like, okay, here's the story. Did I miss the question? So, okay, so despite all of this, they haven't invited you for the technical interview. Okay, look, in the absence of like, I can't find the actual question, but I'll just say this. If you've got all these great things to your name, you got all these feathers in your cap, that's great. Okay, remember, job interviews, deceptively, they're not about the technical qualifications. Like, I know in IT, sometimes they give you these retarded, like, aptitude tests and things like that, you know, like as if you don't have any education, we're going to like retest you to make sure that, you know, you actually know stuff. But job interviews are about who you are as a person, because the reality is that, look, you could be the most amazing, technically gifted person. You could be the brightest person ever. You can do math backwards in your head. You could do programming languages. You could have all the syntax, you know, memorized for like, you know, 150 programming languages. It doesn't matter if you can't work with that person. If every time you give them a job, you say, I need you to do this, they give you an argument, and then they give you 50 reasons in chronological order and alphabetical order of why they can't do it or they don't want to do it. So sorry, no dice. You know what I'm saying? The who you are as a person, unfortunately, trumps your technical skills. The other aspect of this is that, you know, when they do job interviews, okay, the way this is done is that all the people who they bring in to interview, all of those people, according to their resumes, they are fully qualified for the job. They have everything they need, technically. Okay, they could all do the job if offered to them, right? So you can't really compete on technical qualifications once you get to the interview stage. Now, I know this sounds very counterintuitive, because a lot of their questions in the interviews are about your technical skills. You know, tell me about your accomplishments, tell me about your experience, tell me about, you know, like how you solved this problem or how you would solve this problem. You know, it's deceptive. You think it's all about your technical skills. They will hire the most qualified person technically. It's not, because the reality is that the boss has several subordinates that they got to deal with. They don't have time to hold their hand. They don't have time to micromanage them. They don't have time to like explain every little tiny thing they need to them each time, right? They just want someone that can just get on with it, not cause any issues, not argue back, not throw up a lot of problems or objections, you know what I mean? Just say, yes, sir, get it done, and it's done, right? That's what they're looking for, okay? They're looking for someone who wants to be there, who isn't disgruntled, who can actually collaborate with other people and get along with them. You know, instead of like, you know, you tell two people to collaborate, next thing you know, they've both reported back to you. They can't stand the other person and it's not going well, right? It's like, that's not what you want. You want them to just get on with it. Figure out a way to work together and make it happen, right? So that's what the job interviews are about. They're about those soft skills. Now, this is kind of annoying for technical people, because technical people, and I know how you feel because I'm a technical person originally. You know, you would think it would be all about your qualifications. You spent years and years to amass, and you're quite proud of them, but it's not. That was how you got the interview. Now you got to sell yourself on how you're awesome to work with and interact with. Okay. So that's what's going on. Wolf2K says, yeah, it didn't go through. Okay, well, listen, if there is a question, specifically ask it, because I got your story now, okay? I got your story now. And it's not all about the salary range. Like, okay, on the one hand, they want to get a good person, right? On the other hand, if they can get the good person for cheap, that's even better. So they will try to get the good person for cheap, but, you know, depending on the organization, they may not prioritize that. They just want the good person, right? They're happy to pay for the person if they're good. Okay. So what they sometimes do, like, it depends on the organization. Sometimes people care about getting someone for cheap, and that's paramount. Other times they care much more about the quality of the person. They want that precise person. The boss fell in love with them when they were in the job interview. So it's like, I want them. And they tell that to the recruiter makes the offer, right? So you could see either of those, right? There's no way for me to tell. It depends on the company. But usually the way it works is that they will make at least a half-hearted attempt to see if they can get you for like a lower salary than a higher one. They won't just immediately offer like the top of the range. They'll offer the lower one or somewhere in the middle just to see if you'll take it. And if you take it, there we go. Like bonus, we got them for cheap. If you kind of push back a little, they might go, okay, fine. Here's the top salary, right? So it depends, right? But my point is that they will usually almost always try and bargain you down a bit if they can. Okay. Now, I skipped over a couple of people in order to do this question, so I'm going to go back up. Here we go. Joey Joe says, "Hi, I'm a mechanical engineer." I'm so sorry to hear that, Joey Joe. I'm an electrical engineer, and you guys know that we're better, and it hurts. Have a decent experience in mechanical engineering, 7+ years ranging from oil and gas to construction, but my resume doesn't even get past the initial stage. Okay, well, there could be a whole variety of reasons for that, but the most likely is that are you customizing your resume for these people? You've got to show prominently that you have the things that they've specifically said they're looking for. Those have to be upfront, they have to be emphasized, and you have to use their lingo, right? So you would know that in technical areas, sometimes the terms we use for things are not universal. Sometimes one person calls it this, another person calls it that, right? Now, especially if they're running your resume through like software filters, right? This is especially true, but even if you're not doing that, if it goes to a recruiter, recruiters don't know anything about mechanical engineering. They don't know anything about oil and gas. So it's like, you say I've like worked on this type of equipment. They won't know what that is. They won't know that term you've used is the exact thing they said they were looking for in the job description, but they used a different term, I'm not a mechanical engineer. I can't come up with a great illustrative example off the top of my head to illustrate that, but you got to use the same lingo, and that's what they're looking for, okay? Okay, but you're at the very beginning, you're at the very beginning of this process, realizing, maybe there's more to it. I don't know your exact situation, but if I just knew this about you, I would say there's a good chance that you're right at the beginning of this process. You're discovering that, there is a difference between being qualified, highly qualified, and getting a job, right? Selling yourself. They're two entirely different things. It isn't as simple as saying, I have all these different things, and then they go, they immediately recognize what all those are, and they recognize how, much value you have, and they immediately offer you a job. It doesn't work like that. These people are stupid. You have to spell out that, all those things that you listed in your job description, those things that the hiring manager printed off and gave to you because you don't know what they are, those things are actually these things on my resume, right? This is what you're up against. This is one of the reasons I recommend people investigate networking. More people get jobs through networking than they get through answering job ads, right? One of the great reasons for that is because when you do networking, you're not networking with some idiot recruiter. You're talking directly to the hiring manager. You're talking to the boss. If you got this engineering job, you would be reporting to this individual. You go right to that individual and you say, hey, let's have a chat. Or, hey, I've got this experience. I solved this problem. I'm great at this. If ever you're looking, give me a call because I'd love to work for your company. And they know what you're talking about when you say you've got these things, right? That's why it's much more effective. Okay. Anyway, sorry to get a bit animated about that, but that's kind of the situation. Maybe you've already realized all that. I'm not sure where you are with it, but that is the most likely reason for this issue. Okay, now I'm going back down, down the feed again. Down the long ladder. Pearl. I meant when one doesn't know the interviewers prior to the interview. Yeah, I know. That's what I was responding to. Oh, when you don't know. Okay, I thought you knew their name or something. Well, if you don't know who they are, it's kind of hard to research them, isn't it? Like, I thought you knew the names of the people that were going to be interviewing you. Like, here's the recruiter, here's the manager, and you wanted to know more about them. Okay, so of course it won't scroll again. God, this is not behaving in a very user-friendly manner, shall we say. So I can't go up, I can't find your original comment. Sorry about this. Look, if you're flying blind, you don't know who you're going to be interviewing with. There's not much you can do about that. Just prepare. Just do your best you can, and it should be okay. It's not a major consideration that you know the people and you research them. What's important is when you get into the room, if it's like multiple people or something, get their cards, get their business card. A great way to do that is if you have a business card of your own, just get one printed up for the equivalent of like $20. Like if you can swing that. I recommend Vistaprint online. I've gotten business cards through them and had them printed for my company. So, just get your own business card. It just says, your name, your tagline, your contact information. Maybe if you're fancy, you want to put a little picture on there. Like the picture you use in your LinkedIn profile or something. Anyway, but if you have one of those, you just go in the room, you sort of take out your business here and you start giving them out to the people and they give you theirs. That's great. And then you sit down at the table and you've got like 3 people, right? I'll turn on my other camera and you got 3 people in front of you, right? And then you put the business cards in front of you. So like there's their name and there's who they are, right? So when you're talking to them, it's like Jeff, hey, Jeff, and Francine, right? You know their names and you use their names, right? It comes across very professional. Okay. Classic Italian culture. Many thanks for the answer. Please feel free to imitate Italian. Oh no, you're putting me on the spot. I'm not a comedy actor as much as I have occasionally pretended to be in some of my videos. You're making me smash at these barrels. We'll watch lots of your videos in these days. I love them. Well, thank you very much. It's very kind of you to say that. And you're awesome. Wolf 2K, it didn't go through. Okay, Wolf 2K says, yeah, but I always get the recruiter with no IT knowledge. Yeah, I know. Isn't that a biatch? It's like, it's like you're talking with someone who has no idea what you do, no idea of half the words that you're saying mean. It's kind of hard to relate to them and try and impress them when they don't know this stuff. So I feel your pain. I've been in that situation before. I remember doing like an interview with somebody like years ago. I can't remember for what. But, it's like I go in there, I've got an engineering degree, I've got an MBA, I've got all this professional experience. Like, they don't even know what an MBA is. It's like, why are you interviewing me? I mean, if you don't even know what this is, like, how are you qualified to decide who's best to do the job? You know what I mean? Or make recommendations. That's why they ask those questions like, so what does success look like to you? It's because they don't know anything about like anything technical that, the job requires or what you do. Also, I'm able to collaborate, give all my best traits, everything you suggested. Okay, well, good. We'll make sure that they get that impression, right? Like, okay, it's great that you can do it. Now you've got to sell the fact that you can do it. And not that you can do it, but you're awesome at it. Any type of conflict with a person, no matter who the person is, any type of, issue or confusion with, projects, like you've got some circular dependencies or, areas where it's unclear of like who has to make a decision, anything like that. If you know how to solve those problems quickly, efficiently, and effectively, make them understand this. They may not ask you directly about any of this stuff. You've got to volunteer it, right? You know, this isn't, I'm not saying this to you like I think you don't know this. I'm just saying this in general. Everybody should know that, like, if something's important, something that you have or that you've done or that you know, if it's important, it's a big selling point for you. You could really help them. You know, you don't wait for them to ask you about it. You may have to volunteer it, right? That's why when they ask you questions like, what are your strengths? Or why do you want to work here? Or, you know, why should we hire you? These are great questions. Tell me about yourself. Like these are great questions in the sense that, like, they're so general. You could say anything. So this is an open platform. They've given you an open mic to sell yourself. Here's what you need to know about me. I am awesome at this. Here's an example. A couple of years ago, this came up. This is what happened. This is what I did. This was the result. I was commended for that. I was promoted for that. This is what I can do for you. You know, you don't wait for them to ask you about that. You volunteer that, right? If it's something that you feel that they should know. And what you do the preparation for is to make sure that you can say this in a very concise way that doesn't take 10 minutes to say. Because if, you know, you're just rambling like I tend to do on these, you know, just lots and lots of words, you know, if you can say it very efficiently, it can have like a very high impact, right? So that's the kind of stuff that you practice. And always be respectful. Yeah. Sometimes they will say that they will call me in a week or two and never reach out to me. Yeah, that's normal. So I was asking for some advice since the recruiters say that I'm a good fit, but I've not reached out. Listen, like I hate to tell this to you. They have no, for want of a better word, guts, okay? They are not going to be honest with you. They're not going to be honest with any candidate about anything. When it comes to giving feedback, they are not going to reveal their thoughts, and they are not going to give you points of improvement. And if they do, it's probably a lie, okay? They shy away from giving any bad news to candidates. Now, I understand to a degree why they do this, because, you know, people get offended, they get their back up, they take exception to it, and they start arguing back. And it's like, you know, like, there's no point in arguing. It's over. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, that's all that matters, is that it's over. It's a no. Okay. You know, it's unfortunate, but they say all kinds of stuff. Instead of saying it a no, I'm sorry, it's a no. They say, I'll get back to you. They say, we'll give you a call in a couple of weeks. You know, like things like this. Okay. Now, there's always exceptions to this, but like well over 90% of the time, I will call you in a couple of weeks usually means I will never call you ever again. You will never hear from me again. Okay. I hate to be the one to tell you this, but that's just the reality of how these people operate. That's their little code of how they talk to people. Okay. So, as I said in earlier in this chat, just keep moving forward. Okay. It's unfortunate if this was something you really wanted, or you do really want, and they're just giving you the runaround. They're not calling you back. But don't make it worse by like waiting by the phone, just sitting there. You know, imagine a picture of me waiting by the phone. Here's the phone in front. One of those old phones made out of Bakelite, you know, on my bed with my feet kind of touching in like Dorothy slippers. Just imagine that. Let's have that image burned into your mind. That's bad. Okay. That's bad for your mental health. And it takes you away from pursuing other opportunities that will lead to something. Okay. So keep moving forward. Keep applying for jobs, keep pursuing opportunities, do more of the networking, do all the different things you're doing in your job search campaign. Keep going. If they call you back, great, but don't wait by the phone. Don't stress about it, playing it over in your head any more than you could possibly help it. Okay. I know it's easier said than done. Okay. And hopefully they will call you back. Hopefully they're just getting their act together. Who knows? Joey Joe, thanks for the feedback. I got your point. Yes, I do tend to stress my points, don't I? But good. Okay. Is that the end? Is that the end of this feed? My feed is stopped, so I assume it is. I got all these screens and none of them work. I'm looking at that one now. Oh, there's a couple more things after that's not showing up on my feed. I'll just answer those, and then I'm going to have to wind this down. Let's see here. I got my big giant microphone right in my face, so it's hard to see around it here. Maybe I can do something creative with this this microphone here. Here we go. Okay. Joey Joe says, thanks for the feedback. I got your point. Okay, so, I can't read the name because it's green on black and it's very small, but does being bilingual get a high paying job? Not necessarily. Depending on the situation, for certain jobs, like for example, if you got to teach a language, obviously knowing the language helps, right? So yes, it can get you a job in that case. But a high paying job, in my experience, no. I'm bilingual. I learned French. The first 13 years of schooling for me, like when I was a little kid all the way through high school, was all in French. So I can speak French. And the reason my parents did that was because there was a promise that, if you are bilingual, it'll open all these doors for you. You can get government jobs or whatever. I mean, the last thing I would want now is a government job, but that didn't work out. That ended up not being a thing. It ended up being sort of it's all a cruel hoax, I tell you. So yes, I'm an engineering student. Okay, yeah, that doesn't matter about the bilingual thing. It doesn't hurt. It opens some doors, but is it a guarantee? Of course not. No, it is not. Daryl says, I love your channel. You're so good. Well, thank you very much. You guys are awesome for being here. You're the ones that are actively working to improve yourselves. The more you learn, the more stuff you try, the more practice you get, the better you get. And if you keep doing this for the long haul, like throughout your life, you're going to be a pro at this stuff. You're not going to stress out about having to get jobs like in the future because you'll know exactly what to do and it'll work, So there you go. Wolf 2K says, yes, I'm selling myself in good ways. Good introduction, but they always find someone better. Good to know. Look, Wolf, there are many ways to get a job. And the other thing that you should know, if you don't know already, is that if you're going through recruiters, okay, there are some people that recruiters will never hire. For example, people that are changing careers. What's the first question that recruiters ask? What's the metric they always use to judge everything? It's years of experience. How many years of experience do you have doing this or doing this, right? Years of experience, right? Well, if you're changing your career, by definition, you have no experience in the career you're going to, right? All your work experience has been in a different career, a different industry or something. So does that mean, so they will never hire you? If you go through standard channels, if you try and change careers and you do it by applying for jobs that are posted publicly and you send in your job application with the resume and you go talk to a recruiter, you will never get past the recruiter because the way they think is that they need years of experience, right? So does that mean that anyone who wants to change a career can't? You could never get, of course it doesn't. The people who change careers, they don't go through recruiters. They go directly to hiring managers. You talk to a hiring manager, you say look, I don't know, Mr. Manager that runs some kind of facility, look, I haven't worked in this industry before, okay? You guys say this is, I don't know, aviation. I'm just going to pick a hypothetical example. It won't be a literal example, but say aerospace. You guys do this type of work. You recertify old airframes or something like that, okay? Now, I've never worked in aerospace before, but I'm a fully qualified machinist. And I have a degree, I have a master's degree in chemistry, okay? And I have worked in automotive industries for 2 years. 15 years ago, I worked as a mechanic, in a garage. So you put all of that together and it's I've got the skills. Okay. I got the skills. I know I can do it. Just give me a chance. Right. And let's say you go and you talk to the hiring manager. You go physically have a face-to-face conversation. They say, you know what? I like you. We like, I can tell you're smart. I can tell that you're easy to talk to. We kind of click as people. You seem to act professionally. You seem to understand the kind of culture of this work environment. You don't seem out of place here. You didn't show up in a tux. You didn't show up in sweatpants. You seem to get it, right? Like, so based on your resume and your qualifications and having met you, I'll give you a chance. You're hired. You're hired maybe on probation, 6 months probation. We'll see how it goes, right? And then you go in there, you do a good job. You learn as much as you can. You do it. They say, yeah, right on. You made the team. That's how you change careers. People do this every day. But if you go through standard channels by going through the HR department, they will never hire you. Because their first question is going to be, how much years of experience do you have in the aerospace industry? And you're going to have to say none. And they say, okay, well, I'm sorry. How do you believe you're qualified for this job? I'm sorry. It's going to be a no. Right? Okay. So remember, just applying for posted jobs is not the only way to get a job. Far from it. So if you're doing this process and you've done it a long time and you're really doing all the things and you're not getting anywhere, look into some of the other alternatives. Okay. I talk about them on my channel. I've got live streams or I've got videos dedicated to different methods of getting a job. Check those out. Okay. Good to know. Good to know. Thank you very much. Bonjour. Vous avez magnifique. Merci beaucoup. Formidable. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Pearl. Okay. So thank you everybody for joining me today. There's 21 of you guys here. You guys are awesome. If you do want to go deeper, as it says on the screen, I've got a course. You can always check out that course. That's where all my advice is sort of in one place from beginning to end with templates and step-by-step kind of thing. If that's the kind of thing you're into, link in the description of this video. Check that out. Other than that, I will be back next week. On Monday, I do a live stream on side hustles, which is like entrepreneurship, making money on the side. It's related to careers. That's why I talk about it. I'm also doing a live stream these days on leadership, which is like, executive management, skills needed, principles involved, that kind of stuff. So if you are interested in learning more about that, I have a weekly live stream. I'm going to do 3 more episodes of that for sure. I've sort of decided, I've committed to doing 3 more episodes. So I will do those and show up for those. If you're interested, you can also ask me questions. And I will be back with this, just the general Q&A on careers and job interviews next week. Wolf2K just said one last thing here. It says, yes, but sometimes job hopping is a red flag, but those recruiters never see beyond that. Maybe there was an issue with the company not being able to advance or something else that is good for job seekers. Okay, yeah, you got me. I'm triggered a little bit. Yeah, everything's a red flag. If you stay in one place for too long, that's a red flag, right? Because you've only seen one way of doing things, right? But then if you jump around and see a lot of different things and a lot of different solutions to problems, that's a red flag too, because, maybe, if we hire you, you'll jump ship soon, right? You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, okay? Look, you do what's best for you. And if these people aren't giving you a job, then you look elsewhere. It's just that simple, and you see where life takes you. And sometimes it takes you to a place where you didn't imagine you would be, but it's actually a lot cooler than you could ever imagine. So don't worry about it. Just do your best. And, the more work you put into this, the more you learn, the further you'll go. I will see you guys next week. Take care, and I wish you nothing but the best.